Dzień dobry, and welcome to this Monday night travel premiere of the new 1 hour Rick Steves Poland special. My name is Ben Green, and I will moderate tonight's presentation. So now, please get your armchairs in their upright and locked position for our trip to Poland. I would like to welcome back our regular host and travel expert, ready to share his recent experiences in Poland from south to north, Rick Steves. Hey, Rick, welcome back to Monday Night Travel.
Ben, it's so good to see you, and it's so good to be with all of our Monday Night Travel friends and travel buddies as we basically debut a very exciting new 1 hour show on Poland.
I'm so excited to dive into your experiences in Poland, Rick, but please first tell us, what have you been up to?
Oh, baby, I've had an amazing season. First of all, I used to have prostate cancer, and I put that in past tense. I'm so thankful. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer last summer. In October, I got my surgery and down one organ, and it takes a few months to know if you got it all. And every indication is that I am cancer-free now. So I'm very thankful for that. Just last week, I went to get my blood checked, as you do after this, and it's below a trace. So they said that's about as good as we can expect. So that, I'll tell you, I'm so thankful for the love and thoughts and prayers from so many people, and I feel like I weathered that storm, and we've got a lot of good travels coming up. So I'm in a thankful and happy mood. Other than that, I guess I'm also in a thankful mood because we've just I've been going around the country with this Hippie Trails book. This is the very first printing of it, and it says Rick Steves on the Hippie Trail. But the new printing I just saw says New York Times bestseller, Rick Steves and the Hippie Trail. We've just been going like crazy all over the country with this book, and it's just a wonderful opportunity. We dug this up during COVID. It's a journal I wrote when I was 1/3 my age that I am now, and it is just like an anthropological dig into a 23-year-old version of myself. I wrote this journal. You can see a little bit of the handwritten journal there. But I wrote this when I was still a piano teacher, and 60,000 words, and very candid look at a coming of age trip. So that's been a big part of my life lately. But even bigger than that, Ben, I was just in Rome and Istanbul making TV shows, and that was really great.
You've really been keeping busy, Rick, and of course, I think none of us is surprised by that. But you mentioned there at the end that you're fresh off a trip from Rome and Istanbul. What have you found about travel and what it's like in the current economic and political climate? Could you share a bit about that for us?
Boy, that's interesting. And I was in two great cities to feel the temperature of travel in Europe. Of course, in Rome, there's the Jubilee year going on. In fact, our sales in Italy for our tours and our guidebooks are down a bit over last year. And we think it's because people are actually thinking, nah, I don't want to go to Italy and compete with all those pilgrims as millions of people converge on Rome. I was just there filming for 8 days, and it rarely crossed my mind that it was Jubilee year. I mean, if you're going to St. Peter's and any of the pilgrim sites, yeah, that's a big deal. But we were steering clear of that, and Rome was no more crowded than usual. I mean, it's going to be a busy season, but I certainly would not stay away from Rome or Italy, especially actually, you might want to steer clear of Rome or be very careful in Rome, but the rest of Italy, I don't think you'll notice that it's a Jubilee year. So I hope that all the pilgrims going to Rome have a great time. But if you're a tourist, just stay out of their way, and it's like a normal year. Going to Istanbul was interesting because we flew in just after the president of Turkey arrested the mayor of Istanbul and threw him in jail for some trumped up charges, And pardon the pun, but this Erdogan, the ruler, the autocrat, the wannabe dictator of Turkey, he's doing everything Trump does before Trump does. It's almost like Trump's following him. Because what any autocrat wants to do is, if they want to overthrow democracy, you've got to lock up your opposition. This guy got away with it. They put the most popular politician in the country in jail 2 weeks ago. And there's 1 million people on the streets in Istanbul demonstrating. But Erdogan is intimidating universities to teach things the way he wants it taught. Erdogan is demoralizing the respect for journalism, so nobody knows what's the truth. Erdogan has his opportunities to get cozy with billionaires, to have his way with his people, and It's very interesting just to see what's going on. But if you read the headlines from this hemisphere, you'd think, oh, why would anybody be comfortable in Istanbul? Istanbul is a city of 15 million people, and 1 million of them were on the streets at the same time demonstrating. This is a big deal. But from our point of view as tourists and TV producers going to all the famous historic sites, it wasn't a concern at all. It was just kind of exciting to be there as the people of Turkey were speaking up for their democracy. It's just exciting. We're reality travel, Ben, as you know. We're not La La Land. We're not going to be risky ever, but we're not going to dodge the realities of this planet. We travel in order to learn, and we leave home to learn about our home by seeing it from a distance. So I think that's very exciting. One thing very exciting for me as a travel teacher is we've got 3 new shows playing in public television all over the United States. Now, for my whole career, it's been you got to see it on Tuesday night. But now you got to see it on Tuesday night, or you can see it anytime you want. If you're a supporter of public television, you just go to the app. And you can see any show I've ever made, including the shows that have just debuted in the last couple of weeks. And that includes The Symphonic Journey, filmed with the Cincinnati Pops. What a thrill. It's the most exciting musical hour you could ever imagine if you like Europe and history and music, all woven together in a Rick Steves sort of festival. And we've also got a new 1-hour program, which is called Experiencing Europe. And it's a lecture woven in with lots of beautiful video. And it is my most important philosophical approach to travel in Europe. And I just think it's an inspiring hour if you got a chance to check that out. It's called Experiencing Europe. And of course, we've got the Poland show that's airing all over the country. If you're not a member of public television, shame on you, but you can see all my shows for free anyways at our website at ricksteves.com, okay? I do want to remind you, our president, in his interest in finding waste, fraud, and abuse, has decided to defund public broadcasting. So up until now, every American was paying $1.50 a year to have the equivalent of BBC. And now they've found that was wasteful and they've cut it out. And, the city of progressive elites, all of the, Dallas, Houston, Boston, New York, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, we're going to be fine. It's the poor parts of our countries, the small town, the rural parts of our countries that are going to lose this opportunity for thoughtful, non-commercial broadcasting in order for our government to save a couple $100 million. It's heartbreaking, like a lot of things that are getting cut. And that makes me more determined than ever to speak up for the value of public broadcasting. By the way, if you'd like a non-commercial, sacred, beautiful, celebrating high culture in many different countries in Europe, look at Holy Week and Easter. That's airing all over the country right now in our Rick Steves Easter special. And I hope that can give your Easter a little more meaning. But right now, we are ready to go to Poland. Are you, Ben, ready to go to Poland?
Absolutely, Rick. Poland has a special place in my heart. So why don't you take us away?
First of all, tell us where you've been in Poland and why you love Poland so much.
Oh, I went all over Poland, Rick, but I was based in Kraków for 6 months. I was a student at the historic University Jagiellonian. Best experience of my life.
Wow. Hey, best experience. That's quite a statement. I'm going to just drink some Polish vodka to that, Ben. This is bison grass. And Poles who like vodka, and there's a lot of them, understand that this is near and dear to their heart. It's got a little bit of sweet grass in there. It gives it a nice herby taste. And I've got the closest thing to a Polish shot glass right here. Oh, baby. And I'm going to be sipping this along with munching on some pickles, as Poles do when they drink their vodka.
Well, I have something similar, voda, because, vodka comes from the word for water. So I'll have water at least, Rick. Cheers.
Okay, so voda and vodka, huh?
Yeah, vodka is just little water.
Water with a K. All right. Yeah. And we're going to see what else you're eating later on. But right now, we're going to go to Poland. And I was thinking about Poland. It's a big deal in Europe. I mean, it's out of 27 countries in the European Union, Poland has the 5th most representatives in the European Union. I think there's 700 politicians or, congressmen or whatever you'd want to call parliamentarians, members of parliament, that would be it, in the European Union. Out of the 750 of them are from Poland. We were just there, as you'll see. Poland is enjoying its freedom. It's doing really well. It's comfortable. And I want to stress now, and I'll stress later, if you're dreaming of Poland, It's a beautiful, beautiful time to go to Poland. You've got lots of information. The TV show you're about to see, you can see it again on my website without any of the breaks. I'm going to be breaking it up and jabbering about how we made the show and little insights. So it'll be kind of fun. We'll get together a behind the scenes look. But if you'd like to just see the show uninterrupted, and I hope you do, remember you can do that at your PBS Passport app, or you can do it at ricksteves.com. At ricksteves.com, you can print out the entire script. And you got to remember, we take 10-day tours around Poland. And if you're wondering what do we do on our tours, it's exactly what we're doing in this program. So if you wonder, is it on the tour? Yes. In the tours in the TV show? Yes. Is it the best 10 days of Poland? That's what we filmed. Of course, we've got our good friend and buddy, Cameron Hewitt. He should be with me and Ben right here because he's our expert in Poland. But last time I checked, he was on the Rock of Gibraltar in Spain doing some research work there. So we're missing Cameron. But Cameron and Tomasz, who you're going to see in a moment, did a Monday Night Travel episode just a year ago. And you can visit that. And Cameron's also done a 1-hour lecture on Poland. You'll be getting links to this with your follow-up email tomorrow. And it's also in our chat section right now. But there's lots more information if you're interested in checking out Poland from a plan your trip point of view. But right now, I would like you to raise your travel dreams into their upright and locked positions and join me as we share an hour in Poland. Let's go.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves, and we're in Poland. This is a land of soul and pride, with a hard history that created an epic story and a strong culture. In this special, we'll see why this is such a rewarding place to visit. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so we like to start each show with a montage. This comes with a couple of little sound ups, a few sound effects to make you feel like you're right there. And as always, it's got beautiful music. Appreciate the music that our editor, Steve Camarano, adds to the hard work that we do in the field.
In this hour, we'll see Poland's highlights: Krakow's crowd-pleasing square, its medieval glory, and tasty cuisine.
Pinto pancakes. Grandma's food is always the best food.
We'll remember the horror of the Holocaust and take a nostalgic communist-era joyride. We'll cook like a local, or at least try, and cap our visit with a twilight stroll. Warsaw, Poland's cosmopolitan capital, is gilded with a grand palace and a trendy urbanity. We'll learn about its turbulent 20th century and enjoy some Chopin in the park. Then we visit a gingerbread medieval town, taste its sweet claim to fame, and storm a massive Teutonic fortress. Finally, we'll discover the port of Gdańsk and how it helped bring down communism in Europe.
Now we jump from the montage into the map, and this is a very hard-working map. And I just kind of think by the end of this map, we've been less than 2 minutes into this program, and we're already 0 to 60. We are learning about Poland, but we could just show you a map, but we want to help give you a little head start on understanding the complicated, tragic, yet hopeful history of the Polish people. And again, when you look at this map, think of what you're learning and look at the importance of the Vistula, which laces together all these great sites, the Vistula River.
Poland, about the size of Arizona, sits in the north of Central Europe. Medieval Poland was prominent on Europe's map, but in the late 1700s, it disappeared, partitioned by its powerful neighbors. It reappeared after World War I. Then, after World War II, it was part of communist Eastern Europe. And today, with the Iron Curtain long gone, Poland is a leading country in Central Europe. We're following the Vistula River, from Poland's historic and cultural capital, Kraków, to its modern capital, Warsaw, further north past Toruń and Malbork Castle, and finishing at Gdańsk on the Baltic Sea.
Oh man, it just occurred to me, it takes a village to make a TV show. And this map is the artistry of our map department that takes care of all the maps in our books, spearheaded by Rhonda. our artist, and Dave Herline, our cartographer from the very beginning. Let's go to Poland.
Poland's political capital may have moved to Warsaw centuries ago, but Kraków remains the historic, cultural, and intellectual capital, a proud symbol of the Polish national identity. Kraków, or as locals like to say, Kraków, was a trading center, a crossroads that boomed back in the 11th century. Today, it's a sprawling city of 1 million with a delightful old town. And everything converges on the majestic and massive main market square. It's hard not to be drawn to this square. It bustles with life, enticing cafes, families out for a stroll, fairy tale carriages, a youthful energy, and it seems half the tourists in Poland.
So we're a very shoestring budget public television TV crew. We only have one camera and one cameraman in the shoot. Our crew is 3 of us, me, the producer Simon, and the photographer, generally Carl, sometimes Peter. And when you do something like you're going to see next, a little trumpet concert from the top of a bell tower, we had to go 2 times and shoot it 2 times from 2 different perspectives and then cut it together after we got home. Imagine the trickiness of shooting these shows with just one camera.
St. Mary's Church stands tall over it all. Its spire doubles as the town watchtower. At the top of each hour, literally 24/7, a fireman with a trumpet comes to the window and plays a tune to announce all is well. A tune that suddenly dies, recalling a legend in which a watchman's throat was pierced by an enemy arrow. Inside St. Mary's, each midday is a medieval moment. A nun swings open the door's much-adored altarpiece. This exquisite Gothic triptych with hinged panels was carved in the late 1400s by Veit Stoss. One of the most impressive medieval wood carvings in Europe, it depicts the Virgin Mary's ascent to heaven with emotion rare in Gothic art. The square's centerpiece is the cloth hall. Once a marketplace for cloth merchants, today it's home to souvenir stalls. Vendors sell gifty crafts from all over Poland.
I had this goofy idea that I would do a whole series of tiny on cameras and release them together, of me being like giddy for shopping in Poland. It didn't quite work, but it was fun to try.
Like painted wooden plates from mountain forests. Colorful embroidery, delicately hand-stitched. Hand-painted pottery from Silesia. And amber jewelry from the Baltic coast for your favorite travel partner. Krakow's old town is compact and easy to navigate. The vibe is relaxed as modern and medieval mix it up. In the 13th century, after their city was destroyed by invaders from the east, Krakowians rebuilt it with a near-perfect grid plan. Today, it's pedestrian-friendly and thriving. They also encircled their city with a wall featuring classic ramparts and towers. The big, round, freestanding fort is a barbican, which provided extra protection at the main gate.
So it's so fun for me to be able to write these scripts and research these shows with all of my work with our tours and with our guidebooks and so on. I've just spent literally all day today fine-tuning the Istanbul script that we just shot the last couple of weeks. These are 1-hour specials now. We just did 1 hour Iceland, 1 hour Poland, 1 hour Rome, 1 hour Paris, 1 hour Istanbul, and I'm going to Europe in a couple of months to do 1 hour in London. But what I get to do, it's a little bit of the bully pulpit. It's a little bit of agenda journalism, you could say. I want you to know what the word Barbican means. We're going to be in London, and it's a big deal. The Barbican, it's a tube spot. It's where there's a big theater. What is a Barbican? Well, I just described it right there, and here it is. Also, I care about the environment. Most travelers do. And we've got a government now in our country that does not care about the environment as opposed to other things like making money right now. So, what I'm going to do every chance I get is celebrate how Europeans are sustainable, how Europeans are green, how Europeans are making their cities people friendly and unpolluted. I mean, right now we're going to celebrate a green belt in a great city in Poland. Europe is way ahead of us in so many ways when it comes to taking care of our environment and providing a great place for people to live out their lives together in one with nature. Check this out, a little bit of inspiration from Krakow in Poland.
Later, the wall was mostly torn down, leaving just a few evocative remnants. The moat was filled in, and a fine park was created in its place. This circular green belt, called the Planty, is popular with today's Krakowians. And if you need a break from all the tourists, you can bike or hike around the Planty and along the riverbank. It's a charming local scene. Fun-loving boaters, lazy picnics, but beware the dragon. Oh, and if you think you're good at chess, challenge one of these guys. The riverside path is inviting, and so is the playful rigging on its delightful pedestrian bridge. Cultured Krakow comes with fine museums. The Czartoryski Museum shows off the eclectic collection of a local aristocrat. Its galleries span the centuries. And it's worth a visit for one painting in particular, Leonardo da Vinci's Lady with an Ermine. Leonardo painted this lifelike portrait before his more famous Mona Lisa, but he used the same enigmatic smile. The subject was likely the 16-year-old mistress of the powerful Duke of Milan. She was famous for her beauty and charm. Her white ermine was a symbol of loyalty and of purity. But it was also the nickname of her lover. I guess it's up to the viewer to decide what's really going on. Krakow has been called Little Rome. That's because of its many churches. There are 23 in the old town alone. The country is devoutly Catholic. Almost 2/3 of Poles attend weekly Mass. So churches here aren't just tourist attractions, they're alive with worshipers. Catholicism is central to Polish identity.
We pride ourselves in beautiful spots for on cameras. I don't know, I just love it. It's my challenge, it's my passion, is to find a perfect spot to say those parts of the script that you cannot conveniently cover with B-roll. If there's something that's too heavy in history and you can't really show images to cover it, that's the time that you talk to the camera. You try to minimize the time you're actually talking to the camera, but there are times when it makes sense to talk to the camera. And what I like to do is find a controlled environment with depth, with flat light, where I can be comfortable. Controlled environment means, there's not going to be cars honking or children running in front of you and so on. I love doing it on camera in a pew, in a great church, surrounded by so much culture, so much beautiful art, and it's just beautiful in so many ways. So throughout this show, check out how we choose our on-camera spots. And I also want to remind you, coming up, you're going to see a lot of historic footage. And in the first half of our TV production days, we didn't really do that very much. But now I love that we source footage that gives a little bit of black and white old video coverage to historical things we talk about. It just makes the shows, I think, so much more easy to get our brains around the stories we're telling. So we've been doing this more and more.
Squeezed for centuries between Protestant Germans and Orthodox Russia, Poles were united and strengthened by their Catholic faith. And after World War II, when Poland was ruled by anti-church communists, going to Mass was more than worship. It was a political statement, a chance to express both dissent and a desire for freedom. It was during these challenging times that a charismatic Krakow priest named Karol Wojtyła led his flock in defiance of communist authorities. Throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, he fought for the right to worship inside the communist state. The church hierarchy was impressed, and in 1978, that humble Polish priest was elected Pope John Paul II. The first non-Italian pope in centuries was made a saint in 2014. Although he's a controversial figure to some, many locals consider him the greatest Pole. Krakow's Franciscan church was special to John Paul. He'd come here all alone to pray. This was his favorite pew, way in the back. To people across the Eastern Bloc and to Catholics worldwide, Pope John Paul II embodied the resistance fighting Soviet rule. And he inspired the Polish people with his soothing refrain, "Have no fear." The church is also a fine introduction to Art Nouveau Polish style. With its stained glass weaving together images of the favorite Franciscan saints, it employs the movement's characteristic organic swoops and floral motifs. Another window shows God in the act of creation, turning natural light into spiritual energy.
I got to say, Cameron Hewitt was a huge part of this production. And you've seen Cameron regularly here on Monday Night Travel. He's, I think, my most prolific co-author. He's in Europe a lot of the year. And Cameron has spearheaded this book. He's the co-author of this book, Central Europe. Until a couple of years ago, this was called Eastern Europe. But Cameron and I have decided that we're going to call Central Europe Central Europe. That's what the people who live there call themselves. Polish people don't consider themselves Eastern Europeans. They are Central Europeans. Eastern Europe are those countries embedded in the Soviet sphere or the Russian sphere. There is a big chapter on Poland in this book if you want all of the nitty-gritty details. One thing Cameron does is he always advocates for Slavic Europe, pushing me to cover Central Europe with the same vigor and passion and gusto that I do Western Europe. For instance, Cameron would say, "Oh, you're always talking about Michelangelo and Raphael and El Greco. What about Stanislav Wyspiański?" Okay, Cameron, this is for you. We're going to do Stanislav Wyspiański. I love this guy.
The Art Nouveau style flourished across Europe in the early 20th century. While Klimt was painting in Vienna and Mucha was busy in Prague, Poland's Art Nouveau movement was led by Stanislav Wyspiański. At the museum dedicated to the artist, you see how the movement was playful, lyrical, and inspired by folklore. Wyspiański and his fellow artists mixed gloom and mysticism into beauty that came with a message. The spirit of Poland will live on. To learn more about Polish culture, I'm joined by my friend and fellow tour guide, Tomasz Klemek.
I think I'm going to take a moment here and just share the screen with Ben. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Rick.
Have you started your main course yet?
I haven't because I've been waiting to display it before we get there.
Let's wait until after we, I think you wanted to show that after we cooked it, actually.
Yeah, we can wait.
Let's do that, but I just wanted to make sure you haven't eaten your pierogi yet.
Okay. Yeah. Nope. It's still there, Rick. I'm holding my mouth closed.
I was wondering, when you look at this coverage of Krakow, you've spent a lot of time in Krakow. How are your memories jiving with this?
Oh, it brings back so much, Rick. The Planty, walking around it in the evening. You know, Krakow is so well organized. You're only 10 or 15 minutes away from the main square because when you hit the Planty, you just turn around. You can't get lost, really.
I love that. I love to look at a map and see history in it. And of course, the Planty would be a circular green belt, and that would have been the moat outside of the wall. And now they tear down the wall and they fill in the moat, and you could just have a lot of buildings there, but no, they keep it as a nice green belt, don't they?
And did you go to any vodka bars, Rick, when you were in Poland?
I did. In fact, there's vodka tasting bars that are kind of designed for visitors. And I thought that was really fun.
And if you have a student ID, at least when I was there, on Mondays, one of them gets you 50% off.
50% off? Well, when you got your own bottle, you don't need 50% off, I'll tell you that. This is my bison grass vodka. And in my travels, every once in a while you find a certain brand you like. Look it up. Bison grass is just beautiful. It's herbal. It's kind of floral. It's got that sweet grass in it. It gives it a creamy kind of flavor. All of my Polish friends are grimacing as I sip my dainty vodka. They would, of course, throw it down, wouldn't they?
Yes, exactly. Take it back, take it all in. Na zdrowie.
I'm not proud. I sip my vodka. Hey, I just introduced Tomasz, and anybody who knows Tomasz loves Tomasz, my friend and fellow tour guide. And you know what I was thinking about? When people see our shows, it seems like I've got friends everywhere, but I want to stress I'm just hiring them to be my friends, okay? Anybody can be a friend of any of these wonderful guides that you see in our TV shows. They're all independent business people that have a calendar, and they do work as private guides, and I just love them. In our guidebooks, you would have everybody in Central Europe's email address that you've seen in our TV shows right here, and you could hire them at a great price to be your private guide. So this is how we really get intimate with these cultures. So you're going to be hearing Tomasz and then later on Agnes, and they do our tours. They lead a lot of our tours. We do about 20 Poland tours every year now. It's a very popular part of our program. And I want to stress that once again, if you're curious about what we do on a 10-day Rick Steves Poland tour, that's this program. If you took along your own private videographer and you wanted to document your trip, it would look very much like this hour. You can use the book, you can download the script, you can be inspired by what you see here, and you can do the tour without us very easily. In this next little bit, you're going to see me and Tomasz talking about vodka. And I just want to remind you, we both got mics on that are buried in our shirts. Simon's very disciplined about not letting our mics be seen. And we only have one camera, so we're having this nice conversation. But later on, I have to remember the questions I asked, and then I have to say them again as the camera's on me instead of on us. And then there's something called noddies. You see it on TV all the time. The host is going, very interesting. Oh, I see. Yeah. Is that so? And that's all just, they cut it in so you can cut away from the person who's talking and remind people that the host is actually listening there. So let's go right now back to our show, and we will see a little bit from Tomasz about how we drink and enjoy the local vodka.
Every time I travel in Poland, it seems vodka is quite important. What does vodka mean to Poland?
Vodka is definitely our national drink. We take it very seriously. We're very proud of it. Polish vodka is a brand that is renowned all over the world, and we do take our vodka very seriously.
So Polish vodka, does that mean Polish ingredients?
Polish vodka has to be not only made in Poland, but made from Polish local ingredients, and those could be either potatoes, so we have potatoes vodka, or grain.
So which, is this potatoes or grain?
This one is grain vodka.
Which do you like better?
I like grain better. That's my favorite.
So is there a ritual for drinking it in a pub or a bar?
Yes, there is. When we celebrate, we drink it with our friends, and we do mainly the shots. And we don't sip it like this. We just do the bottoms up.
Is that right? No sipping?
No sipping.
What if I sip?
Bottoms
What do
up.
people think?
Well, if you
Tourist.
want to be really local, you better do the bottoms up.
That's a very polite answer to my question.
Okay, so really you just throw it right down.
Exactly.
And how do you say toast?
Na zdrowie.
Na zdrowie.
And
good.
bottoms up. Yes.
With or without vodka, Poles know how to have fun. On this warm September evening, people are out and about enjoying the moment. Whether at cafes with a view, in the back streets, or in characteristic cellar bars. It's time for a traditional Polish dinner, and Tomasz is eager to give us an education in his favorite cuisine. I get a feeling that in Poland, the cuisine is a very proud part of the culture.
Yes, and getting to know the culture through its food is always the best way. And tonight we're trying all the classics. They always start with the soup. Soup is an integral part of our meal. So we have around 200 different soups for different occasions. And today we're having the most traditional ones. So what you're having is called żurek.
Żurek.
Żurek, perfect. Fermented rye flour forms a base for the soup.
I can taste that rye. There's that sourness, fermented rye. And what's yours?
Oh, this was such a great dinner to eat and a great dinner to film. We have a tradition we set the table for four, me, my guide, the cameraman, and Simon. Simon is very shy, so he's got his own fan club, but he's very shy, so he makes a point of not featuring him much at the meals, but you can see him there, his hand. And then there's always an empty place, and that's sort of an homage to the cameraman who has to do all this hard work. We're sitting there. If we're doing our job well, it's a matter of us enjoying the food. And Carl is working so hard, but he's always got his place at the table. Tomasz is such a great guide. He's explaining it, and my challenge is not to, in my eagerness to contribute to the conversation, not to, quote, step on his lines. If I step on his lines, we can't edit it, and it causes all sorts of problems in post-production. But this is a wonderful introduction to Polish cuisine. It could have been much, much longer than we had time for in the show, but I'm so thankful for it. By the way, you'll notice that I got the same shirt on every time, and Tomasz wears different shirts because we shot this over 6 or 7 days for the first half of this show. The whole show took us 2 weeks to shoot. And I always, when I'm in one city, I wear the same shirt. So I'm wearing the same shirt for 6 days in a row, and you'll see me all the time with the same shirt because that means no continuity problems. We could shoot me walking into the restaurant the next day, and I'm wearing the same shirt that I wore when I sat down to the table. Let's go to the rest of this meal.
And I am having borscht. Borscht, yes, just beetroot soup with the pieces of beetroot, with potatoes, and with dill as a final touch.
This is a good start to the meal. How do we say bon appetit?
In Poland, we say smacznego.
Smacznego.
Smacznego. Perfect.
All right.
Smacznego. Enjoy your meal.
Oh, Tomasz, yeah.
Potato pancakes. Thank you. It's always one of Polish classics. Potato pancakes, crispy on the outside, soft inside, which is a secret of every grandma. So there are many different ways of having potato pancakes. One is with sour cream. The other traditional way is having them with goulash.
I bet there's a lot of childhood memories on that plate.
Oh, yes. Because, you know, the grandma's food is always the best food. This is the one that you remember, so yes.
This restaurant specializes in grandma's cooking. Krakowians come for both the great food and to feel nostalgic. So now our education in Polish cuisine continues.
Yes, and we continue with 3 other classics, and we have Polish sausage, kiełbasa. This is something you must try while you're in Poland, and we're having the grilled version right now, served with onions fried on butter together with mustard.
Sausage and beers?
Always.
Life is good.
Always together.
What's next?
So the next is bigos. Bigos sometimes being translated as a hunter stew, basically fermented cabbage, meat, sausage, mushroom, and a lot of spices boiled for many days.
And there's another plate.
And there's another plate, another Polish classic, gołąbki. So gołąbki, cabbage rolls that are stuffed with rice and meat. And we serve them with tomato sauce. No matter how much you eat, there's always room for dessert. So we are having racuchy. Racuchy is, you would call it like apple fritter. And it comes not only with the powdered sugar, but also with vanilla and berry sauce that you put on the top of it.
I gotta say, wouldn't it be nice to have Tomasz for your guide, and every dinner he's there helping you put sauce on your apple fritter and explaining things to you? I just love having these great guides helping us out, understanding their culture, their tasty culture.
This is great. And you know, food tastes even better when you know a little bit about what you're eating.
That's true.
From Krakow's Old Town, a ramp leads up to the most hallowed ground in all of Poland. Wawel Hill is sacred to the Polish people, a castle and royal residence since the 11th century. The park-like scene entices Poles to drop by and celebrate their nation's epic story. Everything is layered in history, including the venerable Wawel Cathedral. Architecturally, it's a hodgepodge, a riot of towers and chapels. This national church, with its many tombs, is a who's who of the nation's most beloved figures, from saints to generals to kings and queens. And if you're going to remember only one name, make it Kazimierz the Great. He ruled Poland from Krakow in the 14th century. the larger-than-life Kazimierz was a great warrior, diplomat, and patron of the arts.
Well, I'll tell you, Polish history is complicated and it is tricky for Americans. And we tackle it. You know, we don't dance around it. I mean, Kazimierz is very important. Cities are named after him. He's on the money. It's on, everybody recognizes him. He's the one guy you got to understand. And we need to make it accessible to what I call Joe Sixpack, the person who's never had any Polish history in school. And Simon speaks up for Joe Sixpack whenever we're doing this, because we want our history and our art to be accessible. Now here comes a little bit of history that's hard to cover. You couldn't show pictures to cover it, so this would be where I would do it on camera. And when you do it on camera, it is in ink. You can't change it. All the voiceover stuff you can change until you send the TV show into the network 6 months later. But the on camera, you're stuck with it. If I screw up, the only thing I can do is called loop it. Once in a blue moon, we have to change something that we got wrong, or we decided we didn't want to say that way or whatever. And I have to be able to loop the words with the movement of my lips. And it's pretty tricky, and it works. Sometimes we say something and we thought, well, we didn't want to quite say it that way, because we learn more over the course of the shoot or something, and we have to kind of dig ourselves out of that hole by softening it with the next line that's not on camera. For instance, the last line of this on camera was, Krakow was known as a Jewish paradise. Well, it was relatively speaking a Jewish paradise, but it was far from a paradise for Jews. So on the next line off camera, we wrote, while they still faced persecution, Jews had a relatively good time. So, you know, it's just a really exciting dance as we put these shows together. Let's have a little Polish history.
His scribes bragged that Kazimierz found Poland made of wood and left it made of stone and brick. In fact, he even made it on the 50 zloty note. Kazimierz provided refuge for Jews expelled from other lands, and he established the tradition that Poland would provide safe refuge for Europe's Jews. In fact, for centuries, an estimated 1/3 of the world's Jews lived right here, in a land known as the Jewish paradise. While they still faced some persecution, Jews carved out a relatively vital niche in Polish society, as Poland became home to an estimated 1/3 of the world's Jews. Krakow's historic Jewish district is named for Kazimierz. Until the 20th century, Jews made up 1/4 of Krakow's population. Of the neighborhood's many historic synagogues, some are still places of worship. But today, the economy is mostly tourism. And touristy restaurants feature klezmer, a Jewish traditional folk music that stokes a nostalgia for their poignant story. The old cemetery of Kazimierz also honors the Jewish past. This grave remembers a beloved 16th century rabbi. Prayers are lovingly tucked into the cracks and crevices of his tombstone. And rocks stacked atop tombs, also representing prayers, recall the ancient Jewish tradition of covering sandy graves with stones to prevent them from being disturbed. Jewish cemeteries, like the community of Kazimierz itself, were nearly destroyed after Nazi Germany invaded Poland in 1939. Gravestones crushed under Nazi tank treads were later assembled into memorial mosaic walls. During the Holocaust, the vast majority of Krakow's Jews ended up in concentration camps, and fewer than 1 in 10 survived World War II. About an hour away is perhaps the most powerful Holocaust memorial in all of Europe, the concentration camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau. This was the biggest and most notorious concentration camp in the vast Nazi system. After invading and occupying Poland in 1939, Nazi Germany built many such camps here, far from mainstream German society. Ultimately, they murdered an estimated 6 million people, mostly Jews, and about half of those came from Poland. The Nazis turned this army base into a death camp. Over 1 million people, the vast majority of them Jews, were systematically exterminated here at Auschwitz. The notorious gate welcomed inmates with a cruel lie. Arbeit macht frei. Work will set you free. The former cell blocks now display powerful museum exhibits that, while difficult to see, must, out of respect to its victims, be seen. People were told they'd be starting new lives and to bring luggage, clearly labeled with their names. After they were killed, everything of value was seized and sorted. Crutches and prosthetic limbs remind us that the first people exterminated were the mentally and physically ill. Piles of glasses. A seemingly endless mountain of shoes. It's hard to comprehend the numbers. Even children. The Nazis spared no one. Halls are lined with photographs of victims. Men and women, each marked with the date of arrival and the date of death. Inmates rarely survived more than a couple months. The gas chamber and crematorium is marked by its chimney. Up to 700 people at a time could be gassed, but it required 2 days to burn that many bodies. The Nazis wanted an even higher death toll, so they built a far bigger camp nearby. That camp, called Birkenau, was an efficient factory for the mass production of death designed to implement the Nazis' final solution: genocide, the murder of all Jews. It could hold about 100,000 prisoners at a time. People from all over Europe were loaded like animals into train cars like this. They'd pass under the infamous gatehouse, into the camp, into the dividing platform. A Nazi doctor stood here and evaluated each prisoner as they stepped off the train. If he pointed one way, that prisoner marched unknowingly directly to the gas chamber. If he pointed the other, that person was judged fit to work and would live a little while longer. It was here that countless families from across Europe were torn apart forever. Barracks were packed with up to 1,000 prisoners, each person with an ID number rather than a name. 2 chimneys connected by a brick duct provided a little heat. The bricks are worn smooth by countless inmates who sat here to catch a little warmth in the middle of a bitter Polish winter. I can't imagine how cold they must have been. Hungry, wet, dressed in rags, and terrified. As the Allies advanced and Germany retreated, the Nazis bombed the evidence of their crimes. The gas chambers, where the mass killing was done, were disguised as showers. People were given hooks to hang their clothes on, conned into thinking they'd be coming back. The Nazis didn't want to panic. Then the inmates piled into the shower room. At Birkenau, the Nazis gassed and cremated thousands of people per day. The camp monument represents gravestones and the chimney of a crematorium. Plaques in each of the languages spoken by camp victims explain the mission of this memorial.
Oh my goodness. You know, reality travel is so important. I cannot imagine doing a TV show in Poland without going to Auschwitz-Birkenau. Can't imagine doing a TV show in Germany without talking about fascism. We need to learn from history because people want to do bad things. It's amazing to me how many countries do get it together with their democracies, where they have a rule of law, and where they live together peacefully. We've just seen the Nazi experience. Now we're going to see the communist experience, and Poland has lived through both. And we learn from history through our travels, or we can learn from history through thoughtful media. There's a lot of thoughtful media out there today. Much of it is on public broadcasting. If you appreciate the way that nature shows can get us tuned in to the fragility of our environment, and how history documentaries like Ken Burns' work and so on can let us appreciate from where we came, and that my shows can help us learn from our travels, you got to support thoughtful media. You got to raise your voice and speak up for public broadcasting. I'll tell you, Trump has got it in his brain that we don't want to have people critical thinking. We don't want to have media that questions the world the way he doesn't want to see it. This is important for the fabric of our democracy. That's all. We need it in our society. It's so handy, for example, for a dictator to have a convenient place to lock people up. The first people in those concentration camps were not Jews. They were Hitler's political opposition. There's a monument to him in front of the Reichstag in Berlin. All of his Dick Cheneys and Liz Cheneys and Adam Kinzingers and Mitt Romneys, he locked them up first, and he kept them there. Now, our president has a very convenient prison where he can disappear people and we lose track of them. A lot of these people belong in prison, but do we really need a mysterious black hole concentration camp in El Salvador to do this? It's just very handy for an autocrat who wants to inflict retribution on his people to have a convenient way to have people, what they call, disappeared. People tell me have a safe trip. Sometimes I wonder if that's not a warning to be careful when you leave your country and you look at it from a distance. You can learn some hard facts about your own homeland. It's exciting to do that. It's important to do it. We need to look honestly at our history, not to whitewash it, not to rub out the stuff that we're not comfortable with. Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, he said travel makes a person wiser, if less happy. I embrace that opportunity to complicate my life, my outlook, my world, by getting out of this country and meeting first person the other 96% of humanity. Muhammad said, don't tell me how educated you are, tell me how much you've traveled. Ha! Okay, we're learning from history now. We just saw a little bit of Poland from the far right end, fascism. Now we're going to go to the far left and see what life was like under Stalin in this same society.
Back in Krakow, tourists can learn about the next chapter of Poland's story, becoming a Soviet satellite after World War II. One entertaining yet informative way to get a peek at that is by looking through the windows of tiny communist-era cars.
Hop in.
And we'll do the same, visiting the communist-planned workers' town of Nowa Huta.
Oh, I love this little car.
Don't get too comfortable.
And our guide is Cornelia.
This is such a treat. Tell me about this little car.
So we are driving a famous Trabant from East Germany, very popular family car in Poland. Also one of few to choose from, so people had no choice and they were happy what they got.
Was it easy to get the car?
Not so easy. Like, you had to wait quite a lot, 10, 15 years. Record in Poland is 20 years.
So tell me about this neighborhood. What is this?
We are in Nowa Huta district. It's a communist model city from the 50s. The only place like that in Poland, actually. So it's supposed to be a showcase, kind of proving that communism works. People get jobs, apartments, and they're happy.
Nowa Huta was designed around a new enormous steel mill, the largest in Poland. Called the Lenin Steel Works, it employed nearly 40,000 workers who worked in 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. It was intended as a high production factory to show off the Soviet bloc's industrial might.
How many people lived in Nova Huta?
Design was for 100,000 people, but it was like a worker's paradise. So most men had a job in one factory over here, steelworks, and families, women, you had jobs like services, hospitals. So it was self-sufficient town.
So why did Stalin want to give that plan to Krakow?
Well, one of the main reasons for sure were to punish the intelligentsia, to kind of contrabalance this society in Krakow with a lot of churches, universities, with workers which before were farmers and had quite simple lives.
Yeah, so punish Krakow for having culture, education, and churches.
Yeah.
What was it like to actually live here in the 50s?
So after the war, this was a very attractive place for people to come. So they had jobs, they had apartments for free, and shops were even better than the center. They wanted to show people in Krakow that it's working. So after the war, that was a good place to live.
So what is the story of Nova Huta after communism fell?
After communism fell, it was not the best place to be, especially that you had a job in the factory, which you probably lost in the 90s. But now, within 30 years' time, this is pretty nice place to live in. People are happy, people have beautiful space to live in, and they definitely prefer it more than being in the busy center. Probably one of the best districts to live in Krakow.
And the Central Plaza, reflecting the transition from communism to democracy and capitalism, is called Ronald Reagan Square. Back in the heart of Krakow, we're meeting up with Tomasz again to do some shopping at the market. It's a festival of fresh and local produce. Berries, mushrooms, eggs right off the farm, fresh baked bread, mountain cheeses, sausages, and other rustic village food. Some of these humble family businesses go back generations. In a market like this, the community comes together, shopping daily, taking full advantage of the fertility of this land. And as Tomasz will attempt to teach me how to cook a classic Polish dish, we're buying the necessary ingredients.
I gotta say, this TV series that we produce benefits so much from our guidebook research and from our tour program. And one of the highlights of our Poland tours is to actually go shopping with one of our guides and then go to their home and cook pierogi and then eat it. Our tours just love it. I did it when I was with Tomasz here, and there's so much to be said for having local friends who are also guides and know how to share their culture. We're gonna go shopping now, and then we're gonna go cook this up, and we're gonna see how it tastes.
Look at hey. Thank you.
Feel it. Just flip it over onto the dough board.
In Tomasz's kitchen, I'm learning how to make pierogi. First, you knead the potato dough to just the right texture.
Like a Play-Doh. It's very relaxing. It's like going to a spa for your body and soul.
Is Grandma looking down?
I hope she is.
Then you roll it out, flat as a Polish
We
crepe.
want it as thin as possible because our dough is generally flavorless. What gives the flavor to our dish is the filling and the topping.
And cut out small discs.
Beautiful.
Making cute little pockets, you tuck in the cheese, onion, and meat filling. Then you seal it watertight around the edges.
Pinch it firmly. Do it. Has to be your first pierogi. Congratulations. And we just wait for them to float.
After a short boiling bath, they're ready to eat. In true family style, we enjoy a little sunshine in the backyard and a classic Polish meal, just like Grandma or Babcia used to make.
Dziękuję babcia.
Dziękuję babcia, yes. I hope she's proud.
Ben, what do you think of that?
Pierogi, one of my favorites. I'm drooling.
I've never cooked anything so involved as making those little raviolis. It was just really fun. And I'll tell you, it tasted great. And it even tasted better because we bought the ingredients, we rolled it out, we made it, and we sat down together in his front yard and had a delightful experience.
I love that we do that on our tours, and I love the markets in Krakow. They are fantastic. There's one called Stary Kleparz just north of the main square that I frequented did quite a bit.
They really are great. As being in the EU now, they've had to become more hygienic, but they maintain their character, don't they?
Absolutely, yes. As you said in the episode, many families have been serving people for generations there.
And I find that around the markets, you've got some of the most creative and fun and just delightful little mom and pop restaurants and eateries. And it's just go to the old market. It's beloved with the locals, and you'll see why.
And prices are far lower than what you might expect as well.
So now you got some pierogi. Are you actually eating them?
I haven't yet. I wanted to preserve the beauty of this fried plate. So there, and we had a sneak preview earlier, but here now you can see it in its full glory. So
Never eat the props. Well, all I have is pickles to go with my vodka. Now you've got yourself a real Polish meal there.
well, you're just a few minutes up the street from me, so we'll trade, we'll share. How's that?
I'll save you a couple pickles. You save me a couple pierogies.
We'll do, Rick. We'll see.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Hey, I do also want to say, as you're looking at this TV show and the fragile beauty of life where people are not aggressive, of course, every country's got its challenges, but Poland has come a long way in the last couple of generations. Through World War II and all that fascism nightmare, through 50 years of communism, they've got their own challenges with their government and their democracy. But it feels good in Poland right now. And it feels so good. And when I was there, I couldn't help but think Ukraine felt that way 5 years ago. And now Ukraine is buried in a very difficult war. And Poland is looking carefully at what's going on there, because Poland knows if Putin gets his way in Ukraine, then that's going to stoke his appetite. And Putin would love nothing more than a buffer zone created by taking over a few more Slavic countries, and Poland would be on his list. This is the value of travel. And when we travel, we humanize these struggles. And one thing I've learned is America likes to talk about the ideals that makes America great: freedom, democracy, pluralism, hard work, getting ahead. And those ideals inspire people all around the world. But when we pull back and build walls to make our world safer and more wealthy, we abandon our ideals. And those ideals then fall victim to other more outward-looking forces. And right now, if the world had two great forces, it's China and the United States. And when we pull back, China is eager to reach out. China wrote the book on reaching out lately. And it's a time we should not be asleep at the wheel if we honestly care about what truly makes America great. And what makes America great is not the price of eggs. It's not the price of gas. What makes America great are the ideals that inspire other countries. And if we're not at the table when those ideals are debated, the ideals that we know and love are going to lose. And other powers are going to be able to write the ideals of the world of the future. That's one thing that inspires me from my travels. Let's carry on now, and we'll travel further into this amazing country of Poland.
All right, let's work off some of that pierogi with an evening walk and one last slice of Krakow. The Jewish quarter, Kazimierz, has transformed into a thriving night spot with trendy pubs and restaurants and an inviting energy. The round market hall is now a food circus, popular with families and locals out on a cheap date, many munching zapiekanka, the local pizza. And back at the main market square, locals and visitors alike make the scene. Cafes are full. The horse carriages add to the genteel atmosphere. And it's all about another great travel tip: savoring the moment. As the sun sets and the lights come on, Krakow takes on a timeless and romantic aura.
Okay, we're ready to head south No, north. It's downstream, but the stream goes north, so it gets me confused. We're heading down the Vistula, north to Warsaw. This is the halfway point of the show. And when we made this 1 hour show, we're going to break it into 2 half hours, also to be episodes of our new season. One will be Krakow, and one will be everything we'll see for the rest of the show this evening. Ben, I'd love to just take a few minutes to answer questions that might have been coming in. I suppose Emily and you have been fielding a few questions.
Absolutely. And we've had an active Q&A. Thanks everyone for participating. I'll get to a few, Rick. Okay. How much time would you suggest someone spend in Krakow?
Well, you could spend a week in Krakow, but I'd much rather split a week between Krakow and Warsaw. They're just 3 hours or so apart by, train or car. So you get a diminishing curve the longer you stay in any one place. Krakow is beautiful. It's charming. It's got great, conventional sites. It's got a wonderful vibe you can enjoy. But I think 3 days is plenty there. And then I think 3 days in Warsaw is more reality. And then the unheralded, underappreciated discovery of Poland is Gdańsk, and that's where we're going next.
Rick, has Poland changed a lot in 20 years? You touched on this earlier, but I think many of our viewers have seen the previous episode and are surprised by what they're going to find here tonight.
Yeah, Poland has changed a lot in my lifetime, that's for sure. I remember traveling there during communism, and it was bleak. It was really bleak and depressing, frankly. And 20 years ago, it was charming, and it was filled with hope and energy, but it was nowhere near as affluent that it is today. Today, it's part of Western Europe. Today, this show needed to be updated because Poland is right in there with the rest of Europe.
George asked about the music. How did you select it for this episode?
The music is the wizardry of our editor, Steve Camerano. And Steve, we pay to have a license for the music, and Steve just knows music. He's got a sense for music. I love music. I love to have him editing with a rhythm. And the music, Steve knows how to use music to heighten the emotion that we're trying to get across in any particular clip. So it's the skill of an editor. And you have to have money to pay the license fee to have access to all that music. And then the perfect cut of music is waiting for you to discover it.
Do you have any advice about small town Poland? Is it worth going to smaller towns in Poland, or should we stick to the major cities?
What would you say, Ben? You probably know how to answer that question better than me.
With a week, 10 days, it's probably best to stick to Kraków, Warsaw, and Gdańsk. But if you do have extra time, there are some great small towns, and many are reachable by public transit. You can take a bus to Zakopane, south of Kraków, in the Tatra Mountains. You can go to Tarnów, which has a great old Jewish history just east of Kraków. So there are many options. I would say it depends on how much time you have.
It probably depends on the depth of your interest in Poland. If you got a family there or a Jewish heritage or whatever, that might give you more of a reason to go to the small towns. Most people, if they got 10 days in Poland, I would imagine the predictable things to check off are what we're covering in this hour. One more question, then we'll get back into the show, Ben.
Okay, simple question, Rick. What is your favorite pierogi filling?
I don't know. I would take whatever is the number one thing on the list. What is yours? I don't know it well enough.
It's actually blueberry.
Blueberry.
Yeah,
it's
delicious. But potato and cheese is most popular.
Yeah, because I just think of it as one of these kind of sort of people's cuisines where it's a lot of potatoes, a lot of cheese, a lot of pork. But it is kind of fun that everybody gets to kind of, I suppose by nature, you just clean out whatever's in the cupboard and stick it in there.
Very true, Rick.
All right, let's carry on. We're going to go to Warsaw now. Thanks, Ben.
About 150 miles north, down the Vistula River, lies the capital city, Warsaw, the heartbeat of contemporary Poland.
Warsaw is an energetic metropolis offering a fascinating foray into urban Poland. It comes with both a hard-fought history and a modern vibrancy.
Today, Warsaw, pronounced Warszawa here, is Poland's biggest city with close to 2 million people. It's muscular and sprawling, broad boulevards, imposing buildings, and glittering glass office towers. Today's Warsaw is a thriving European center of business, banking, and politics, with a cosmopolitan energy. Warsaw's glory days peaked between the world wars, when it was one of Europe's most genteel capitals. That spirit survives along its rebuilt main drag, the sweeping Royal Way, with its elegant facades and its popularity with local strollers. Just being out and about, you feel the youthful confidence of this society. Stately hotels and government buildings, this is the president's residence, add to the Royal Way's grandeur. The Blikla Bakery is every Pole's favorite for pączki, jelly donuts.
When locals here go out for donuts, they go out for pączki. My favorite's the classic. It's filled with wild rose jam.
But it's not all jelly donuts. Vast squares with memorials remind all of Poland's hard-fought history. Here, the eternal flame honors war dead with numbers almost incomprehensible. As the city was totally destroyed by Nazis in World War II, nearly everything you'll see, palaces, churches, and fountains, was painstakingly rebuilt from the rubble of 1945. I keep having to remind myself that in this city, hardly a building standing is over 80 years old. Consequently, Warsaw is an architectural jumble, rebuilt both old and new.
Look at that skyline. That skyline was not there when I first came to Poland. Obviously, there was one skyscraper, and that was the Stalin Gothic building. That is the one on the far left there. Hey, we're entering into a section with very heavy history, and it reminds me of the challenge as a TV script writer of telling a long and twisted history in a short TV show. There's so much to talk about, and so much of the sightseeing gives a historical and context to understanding this history. And in 1 hour, I get 7,000 words. That's not a lot to tell the story of Poland. So as you look at the next 5 minutes or so of this show, we had to be very select about how much of the history we'd tell and how we would tell it and how deeply we'd tell it. Because it's the thing that, to be honest, people get their eyes glaze over earlier. So you got to keep it moving and got to keep it lively. But the history is important, and that's one thing we do in our shows, and I'm thankful that people appreciate that. And I got to say, I'm thankful as a TV producer that there's this one little oasis on our dial where you can write a script that assumes an attention span, that respects people's intelligence, and that is driven not by a passion for keeping advertisers happy, but by a passion for inspiring people to get out there and better understand our world, celebrate the world in all its diversity, and learn from its history. That's what we believe in public broadcasting.
Warsaw's meticulously rebuilt Old Town is dominated by its meticulously rebuilt Royal Castle. The castle, a symbol of Polish sovereignty now for over 400 years, boasts some of this country's most lavish halls, gilded and glittering with chandeliers. The palace reflects how Poland was independent and strong for centuries, starting in the Middle Ages. When the homegrown dynasty died out, Poland's nobility elected foreign kings at gatherings like this. Many of those imported rulers squandered Poland's resources on their own selfish agendas. They weakened the country until it actually ceased to exist in 1795.
For over 100 years, Poland disappeared from the map, partitioned by 3 empires, Prussia, Austria, and Russia. But the Poles succeeded in preserving their culture until their country was reborn in 1918, after World War I.
Today, back out on the streets, the atmospheric Old Town entertains the tourists. Here, the 21st century seems to rule these cobbled lanes. The market square is another painstakingly reconstructed part of the Old Town. It's a great place to get something to eat or just relax and people watch. The Mermaid, a symbol of Warsaw, serenades the townspeople, still welcoming friends while keeping out foes. To me, this fountain, always energetic with kids playing, feels like a celebration of life, Polish life. And Polish life comes with music, especially the genius of favorite son Frédéric Chopin. On summer Sundays, Chopin concerts pack the park. It's an expression of this city's pride in its culture and its enduring appetite for community. Poland's great romantic composer sits under a willow tree. Though he lived and worked mostly in Paris, locals cherish the thought that Chopin's inspiration came from memories of the breeze blowing through the willow trees of his native land, Poland. Warsaw museums work hard to explain its complicated history, and much of Poland's story is a Jewish story. The Museum of the History of Polish Jews celebrates 1,000 years of Jews living in Poland. A winding route traces their experience. With the relative tolerance of medieval kings, Jews became established in Polish society. But because they still suffered through pogroms and other persecution, few actual artifacts survive. Many Jews lived in market towns called shtetls, with richly decorated wooden synagogues. Above the traditional elevated prayer platform is a colorful ceiling, a humble canopy rich with symbolism. When Poland regained its independence after World War I, Jewish culture blossomed, especially in the 1920s, when for the first time, Jews had full citizenship and voting rights. And Warsaw was the biggest Jewish city in Europe. Tragically, this flourishing of Jewish culture was crushed when fascist Germany invaded in 1939. Jews were then corralled into a miserable ghetto, subjected to unlivable conditions before being shipped off to Nazi death camps and killed. A monument captures the desperation of the ghetto's last days. Realizing they were all doomed anyway, the haggard and hungry who remained staged a desperate uprising. Nearly all were killed.
This was just one city's experience in a Europe-wide Holocaust. In this attempted genocide, Hitler tried to rid the world of Jewish people. Of the 6 million he killed, half died here in Poland.
With its Jewish population decimated, Warsaw's next chapter was a second valiant but doomed uprising, this time by the non-Jewish Poles who remained. Under Nazi occupation, Poles had formed the biggest underground resistance army in history. Late in the war, as the Nazis began to falter and the Soviets advanced, Poland's home army mobilized to liberate the country. But the Nazis regrouped and brutally put down the Warsaw Uprising. Hitler then ordered that Warsaw be destroyed to its foundations.
The Soviet army sat here across the river and watched and waited. Finally, when the Germans were gone, the Russians marched in to claim the wasteland that was once Warsaw, kicking off over 4 decades of communist rule.
Like a phoenix, the city has risen from the ashes, and today, Warsaw is filled with a happy and youthful populace that has no living memory of those hard times. Today's Warsaw is hip and trendy. Hulking old buildings, no longer fascist or communist, are filled with a rainbow of global food choices. Post-industrial architecture is all the rage. Old red brick factories and power plants have been transformed into convivial hubs for dining, drinking, and shopping.
Okay, now Cameron, my good buddy Cameron, joins us for the last half of the show. Cameron spearheads most of our Central European work. He's the co-author of the books on the region. And for all of our TV shows that deal with the former Warsaw Pact, that would be Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Czech Republic, Croatia, Slovenia, and so on. He spent a major part in the scripts and producing. That includes this 1 hour special on Poland. Very thankful for Cameron's brilliance and his hard work and love of travel. To hear Cameron about Poland, remember Cameron and Tomasz, who we were just with, hosted a Monday Night Travel episode in 2023, in March 20th of 2023. Ben will give you a link to that in your follow-up tomorrow with the email. Also remember, Cameron gives a lecture about Poland for 1 hour, and all of our lectures, all of our TV shows, 150 old Monday Night Travel episodes, they're all available for free at ricksteves.com. So take advantage of that if you're dreaming about traveling or planning. There's so much good information. It's all free because we would love to be a part of your travels. Thank you. Let's now have a nice dinner with Cameron, Simon, and an empty place at the table for our poor cameraman who has to shoot while we eat.
I'm joined by my friend and fellow guidebook author Cameron Hewitt and the show's producer Simon Griffith at Bibenda for a taste of Warsaw's urbane foodie scene. This trendy restaurant specializes in craft cocktails and Polish fusion cuisine. The menu takes fresh local ingredients like heirloom tomatoes and beets and gives them an international spin. Padron peppers, falafel, pumpkin dumplings, all washed down with a good Spanish wine. Whether Polish or international, you can see that we thought everything was delicious. It's a reminder of how cosmopolitan Warsaw respects Polish tradition while also embracing a global future. I can't think of a better way to enjoy our last night in Warsaw.
Boy, oh boy, what a cool restaurant. What was the name of it again? Where is it? How do I find out what that restaurant was? Oh, well, there's a book that will give you all the details for all the places that we go to in this show, and you could be right there enjoying that amazing meal.
Heading north from Warsaw through the rolling farmland of the Polish countryside, we reach a small-town break from our big city itinerary, Toruń.
Okay, I got to say, this is a very busy day. We didn't want to move into a hotel between Warsaw and Gdańsk, so we got up early and we just traveled 200 miles, that's a 4-hour drive north along the Vistula River, and we stopped in Toruń and Malbork to shoot on the way, and we got into Gdańsk that evening. So this was the scramble part of the tour and of the show.
Toruń feels affluent. In the Middle Ages, it was part of the Hanseatic League, a trade union of Northern European merchant cities. Like much of northern Poland, many of its buildings are finely crafted of red brick. The city has an easygoing ambiance that comes with the heavenly scent of gingerbread. Every Pole knows Toruń for 2 reasons: Copernicus and gingerbread. This was the birthplace of the astronomer Copernicus, who 500 years ago established that the Earth revolves around the sun.
But today, here in Toruń anyway, a lot revolves around this, gingerbread.
This recreated old bakery is a favorite for field trips. Costumed guides teach young students how, in the Middle Ages, Toruń's trading connections gave local bakers access to exotic spices. Spices like ginger, cinnamon, and clove, and how the honey in the dough was a natural preservative, allowing it to be traded far and wide. Then the children get to actually roll the dough, press it into traditional molds, and pop their little creations into the oven. Local gingerbread shops let you mix and match a variety of tasty treats with any combination of jams, glazes, and chocolate. For locals, the word is actually a verb. If you've eaten too much, you have gingerbreaded.
I think this will get me to our next stop.
Further north is the Malbork Castle, another red brick masterpiece. Called the biggest brick castle in the world, this was the 14th century headquarters of the Teutonic Knights. These
Wow, this is, I gotta say, as a TV producer, this is great light. This is what we call magic hour, the last hour of the day. We got in and we go, my goodness, that's just as beautiful as it could possibly be. We scrambled and scrambled to get it all before the sun went down. That included the on-camera that's coming up, where it's almost like I had to stand on my tiptoes to keep the sun on me and not get covered in the shade. But boy, when we get light like this, it's just go wild and get all this.
These Germanic crusaders turned mercenaries were hired here by a Christian duke to convert the local pagans.
Job done. The Teutonic Knights decided they liked it here, so they stuck around, built this castle, and dominated northern Poland for over a century. Malbork Castle was essentially a fortified monastery, home to monks, knights, and their leader, the Grand Master.
Malbork's fortifications are formidable indeed. The complex was surrounded by an imposing moat and a mighty brick wall. The heavy portcullis stopped anyone who breached the moat. Then, from slits up above, archers could rain down arrows. And the inner drawbridge made the core of the castle an impenetrable last refuge. While knights lived in the outer castle, monks lived in the inner castle. The Grand Master's lavish and well-fortified quarters, with their fan-vaulted assembly rooms and expansive dining halls, were the capital of those Teutonic Knights, from where they administered their domain. The main attractions of Poland, Krakow, and most of what we're seeing in this program are connected by the Vistula River, the commercial and cultural thread that has tied this nation together since its earliest days. And we're just an hour's drive from our last stop. Gdańsk, historically Poland's leading port, sits near where the Vistula meets the Baltic Sea. For 1,000 years, a cultural crossroads with a rich maritime history, architecturally, it feels more Scandinavian or Dutch than Polish. During its medieval golden age, Gdańsk prospered as a key member of the Hanseatic League.
The Hanseatic League, I've heard that word, but I really don't understand what it is. Well, we're going now to, I think, one of Europe's most underappreciated cities with so much history, charm, and fun, Gdańsk. And fundamental to what makes Gdańsk Gdańsk is the Hanseatic League. I insisted on one big fat on camera to describe the foundation to all of this heritage and cultural wealth. What the heck is the Hanseatic League? You hear about it all over Europe. Well, this is one of the things that we love to do in our show. So here's my best definition of the Hanseatic League in a TV-sized nutshell.
The Hanseatic League was an association of over 100 cities and ports across Northern Europe. Its mission? To protect and promote trade. Busy hunting down pirates, building lighthouses, and boycotting ports that didn't join the club, it dominated the economy and politics in the region through the late Middle Ages. In a way, the Hanseatic League was a precursor to the European Union. Its motto, all power to the merchants.
Along the embankment is a structure those merchants put to good use, a hulking 15th century crane. Back then, this entire river could be filled bank to bank with trading vessels. Maritime trade from distant lands made Gdańsk both prosperous and tolerant. It attracted merchants from all over Europe who brought with them elements of their home cultures. These were then woven into the tapestry of the city, reflected in its eclectic architecture. Overhead, the town hall tower holds a carillon that marks each hour with a cheerful tune.
Oh man, it's blue skies. It never rains on a Rick Steves Europe TV show. Have you noticed that? Well, I know if we're doing a TV show, if it's in the Mediterranean area, it'll be shot in the spring because it's too hot and crowded in the summer. And if it's north of the Alps, like Poland, it would be shot in the middle of summer. Everything twinkles when the sun's out, and people are happier and dressed more colorfully. The TV just goes good. If I get 2 days of sun out of 6, that show's going to look very sunny. And I've got a new plan lately. I always give my crew one day. It's called a B-roll day. After I'm done covering the script, I fly home. I just did that from Istanbul a couple of days ago. And the crew gets one more day to get all these beautiful shots with hopefully the sunny weather. So we're going to enjoy some sunny weather here in the northern end of Poland. And then we're going to meet another of our favorite guides. Coming up is Agnes, and she's been tour guiding with our tours on our Rick Steves tours now for years. She's another good example of why I'm so thankful for our European guides who make our tours the best in the business and who also help us out when we're in town, when we're updating our guidebooks, or when we're shooting a TV show. So we'll meet Agnieszka next.
To better understand Gdańsk, we're joined by my friend and fellow tour guide, Agnieszka Soroka. Our first stop is the town hall.
So the city was governed from this exact room here.
And the art there's a lot of art here.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? In the middle of the vaulting, have a look at this magnificent painting from 1608. Vistula River starts over there in the mountains. Look at these barges filled with the grain from all over the Kingdom of Poland. So all the goods were shipped from Gdańsk down the Vistula River to the Baltic Sea. They are taking that grain, and that grain goes all over Western Europe. And look, deals, business is made here in front of the Arthur's Court.
These would be traders from all over Northern Europe, part of the Hanseatic League here, making a deal, shaking hands.
Indeed, like 1600 stock market.
And God's hand. So he's holding not the church, but the town hall.
Exactly, because Gdańsk was so multicultural and multi-religious throughout centuries, it really never mattered what religion you are, but how much money you can bring to the city doing your business.
The guild hall is next door.
This is a magnificent room.
It's a beautiful guild house, a great example of a great social space where guilds, medieval merchant groups met.
Oh, okay, so this was like networking.
Exactly. Exclusive social club. Merchants from all over Europe were coming here to do their business. Each arch belonged to one guild. Imagine in front of each arch, there was goldsmith guild, beer guild, amber guild. They were very competitive. They were coming here to do their business.
So the traders from Lubeck would meet the traders from Amsterdam and from Riga, coming together.
And then buying grain, timber, coal, and exporting that all over Europe.
The city is ornamented with fine red brick buildings. That's because here in the marshy north of Poland, stone is scarce. Grand buildings like this old mill elevate bricklaying to an art form. The old market hall has long provided an impressive place for farmers to sell their produce. The train station gives visitors a red brick welcome, and even the modern shopping malls carry on this love of brick. And rising high above everything is St. Mary's Church, one of the biggest brick churches anywhere. To be both tall and stable without the strength of stone, it was fortified with beefy brick buttresses. Stepping inside, you're struck by the stark, austere, and very white interior.
This is a remarkable church.
Mary's Church was built before Reformation. Look at the beautiful triptych altar, coronation of St. Virgin Mary.
So the altarpiece is from before the Reformation.
Exactly. And then the city converted to Protestant. And what was really important was the pulpit, because of the Word of God, and music coming from magnificent organ.
Look at that pipe organ. This is like a pavement of tombstones.
Exactly. 500 gravestones of the wealthiest merchants of Gdańsk who wanted to be buried here in their parish church. And if not buried in a tomb, you could commemorate your family on the wall with an epitaph.
In the shadow of the church, atmospheric Mariacka Street is lined with traditional porches, clever gargoyles, and vendors selling the prized amber that the Baltic coast is so famous for. For amber as high art, the striking Amber Museum fills an old mill with precious deposits of this fossilized tree sap. Much of the world's amber comes from Poland. Amber, which can be tens of millions of years old, comes in shades of white, yellow, and brown. It's a favorite medium of local artisans who create exquisite items, from an organically sculptured candelabra to a chessboard that would mesmerize a grand master. There's an exquisite miniature storage chest, and even furniture, such as this gorgeous writing desk.
Gdańsk lived its most dramatic moments in the 20th century. World War II began right here in 1939 when Hitler invaded, and those cranes marked the shipyard where 40 years later, in 1980, the Soviet bloc finally began to crack.
During communist times, Gdańsk was home to the massive Lenin shipyard. In 1980, after decades of frustrations and struggles, shipyard workers went on strike. They created a trade union called Solidarity. Locking themselves inside the shipyard, they refused to work and scrawled their list of 21 demands on plywood.
A fired shipyard electrician, Lech Wałęsa, heard news of the strike. He came here and literally climbed over the wall to get inside and join his comrades. The strike had its leader.
The European Solidarity Center, with its industrial strength architecture and inspiring exhibits, tells the story both vividly and proudly. For 18 days, 17,000 workers, welders, machinists, and steelworkers stood strong. Their only connection to the outside world was to come to the gate. There they'd pass messages to family members and receive food, supplies, and encouragement. The strikers were hungry, tired, and scared, but they were both inspired and emboldened by the new Polish Pope, John Paul II. Finally, the communist authorities gave in and legalized the union. Half of the nation's workforce joined Solidarity, and change was in the air. But then, after 16 hopeful months, Polish authorities, fearful of Soviet intervention, declared martial law. Tanks rumbled through the snowy streets of Poland, and the riot police cracked down on dissidents. Solidarity went underground, yet it gained momentum. In 1989, the roundtable talks brought about elections. The result? Solidarity, now a political party, won every available seat.
These first cracks in the Eastern Bloc spread quickly. Within a few months, the Berlin Wall fell, borders opened up, communist regimes voted themselves out of existence, and Lech Wałęsa was elected the first post-communist president of Poland.
Today, Gdańsk, mindful of its history, is a forward-looking community. Facing the skyline of old Gdańsk across the river is a modern development. Only recently rebuilt from World War II bombings, it echoes the historic rooflines. With its 21st century affluence, Gdańsk provides its people a stylish boardwalk for good living. Strolling here, you feel the promise of a bright Polish future.
Oh, what a delight to be able to share this show with all of you. We've got the closing on camera now. And I just want to mention that with my crew, me and Simon and Carl, our cameraman, we take it as almost a responsibility, not just to throw around words, but to learn from our travels. And Simon and I work very hard to have a takeaway worth taking away with our closing on camera. And with all that's happening in our world today, with our democracy here, with people in Poland and Turkey and Hungary fighting for their democracy, this opportunity to be inspired is really important. This is what we decided to close this Poland show with.
The resilience of Poland's culture and the warmth of its people inspire me. And learning from this country's hard history, I'm reminded that freedom, peace, and prosperity are hard-earned, and that we have lots to be thankful for. I hope you've enjoyed our look at perhaps Europe's most underrated and surprising country. I'm Rick Steves. Until next time, keep on traveling.
And that is our 1 hour special on Poland. Thank you so much for watching. And Ben, back to you.
Thank you so much, Rick. What a grand tour of Poland. That was fantastic.
It's a great country, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. And before we get to some questions, Rick, do you have a word from our sponsor for tonight?
A word from our sponsor. Thank you for asking, Ben. And yeah, I do have a word from our sponsor. We're so enthusiastic about our work. We're so thankful to be able to be a part of people's European travel dreams. And we've got 100 colleagues, Ben, you and I, and they are mission driven just like you are. And biggest part of our work, along with making TV shows and making guidebooks, is taking our tours around Europe. This year, we're taking 1,200 groups around Europe. We've got 33,000 people joining us on our tours, and people are having an amazing time. I was just in Rome and I was just in Istanbul, crossing paths with our groups, nothing but smiles and admiration to our guides. And it's just, you can't imagine how happy that makes me. Well, today's a big day because today, just between you and me, it's the soft launch of 2026. On Thursday, we're going to tell the world that we've got 1,200 tours open now for 2026, and they can sign up. But I thought, hey, we're doing Monday Night Travel tonight, and I'm going to spill the beans right here for all the world to know that if you want to get a Rick Steves tour in 2026, remember, we have a $100 discount on early bookings. That's between now and July 7th. And you've got a complete slate of empty tours to look at. You won't see that after Thursday. I can promise you that, because we've got literally thousands of people waiting for this announcement. So our tour program for 2026 is all ready. I think we've got like 20 tours sold out for Poland this year. I believe there's 4 or 5 seats left on 2 different tours in, I think, July and August. But if you are hell-bent on going to Poland this year, you've got a few seats open, but we've got 20 departures in 2026. So I hope you can check that out. And also, we want to remind people that next Monday, we're kicking off, as we make the hard launch of our tour program for 2026, our festival week, our tour festival. And I get to host the first evening. It's a week from tonight. And I'll be giving a little background at some irreverent history of our tour program. And that's kind of fun to look way back when our company should have been called Europe Through the Gutter, not Europe Through the Back Door, or Rick Steves Europe like it is now. And I'll also be highlighting the beauty of our Best of Europe tours. Those are the flagship tours, the Best of Europe in 14 days and the Best of Europe in 21 days. Okay, Ben, we got some time for questions.
Thank you, Rick. Tour launch is indeed a big day. Grant asks a very practical question. Do any sites in Poland require advanced reservations?
I think Auschwitz is one place that needs a reservation and deserves a reservation. Do you know the answer to that?
Yes, and you're exactly right about Auschwitz. The website auschwitz.org makes the reservations available 90 days ahead, so definitely reserve online. Village Kopalnia, which we didn't touch on, the salt mine in Kraków, that's a good one for advanced reservations. The Renick Underground Museum, and what is the other one? Schindler's Factory, that's it. Those are the 4 big ones.
Okay, so, and all of them are around Krakow,
Exactly.
where most of the tourists are. The salt mine, the concentration camp, the underground city, and Schindler's List factory. Great sites, all of them. We wanted, if we had a little extra time, I've talked way too long tonight, but we were going to show the clip from the old show of the salt tour. But people can look at the old show if they want to. It's kind of fun to compare. Right now, we got both shows up on our TV list. So 20 years ago and today.
Rick, Christina asks about the upper level shots you got, the shots up above, like almost drone footage. How did you get that for this episode?
You know, on some shows we use our own drone, and in other shows we purchase the drone footage from people that do that. But it is a beautiful thing now that we have the opportunity to take our drone with us and shoot that. And, you know, if you're talking about the Vistula River, you want to show where it reaches the sea. We had a beautiful shot of the mouth of the Vistula in this show. You can bet that's the drone shot. So this is a new thing in our tour, in our TV production, and I'm so thankful for it.
It adds a great perspective. I like it a lot. Okay, Rick, Keith is curious if you have any suggestions on how individuals can support PBS.
Individuals can support PBS very simply. Keith, thank you for the question. You all have a public television station in your community. Some of them are joint licensees with radio and TV. Some of them are separated where you got a radio company and a TV company, but they all need public support. And it is a very good investment in your community to get on board. And if everybody just does a little, it's only, a few bucks a person to keep it going. But the fact is, not one person in 100 understands the civics of supporting quality non-commercial broadcasting for our populace, to educate our young people, to give ourselves a view of the world that makes sense. You can support public television in your community everywhere, and they'll be very thankful if you do.
I just want to share with you, I did save you some pierogi. This is how much I like you. So expect that later.
Thank you. Take care of that. I'll see you tomorrow for my pierogi. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Ben, thank you. Emily, Lisa, Gabe, you guys are amazing that keep Monday Night Travel going. And I'm thrilled to be able to drop in every once in a while and help out. So happy travels to all of you. Thank you for joining us and hope to see you next week.